Hi there, my name is Mike Pitt and I make videos about business and crypto on this channel. Today's video is entitled, what does a tariff war mean to the price of Bitcoin? Before I talk about a tariff, the tariff war, escalation of tariffs and all of that, I want to just remind you about something that's very relevant for Bitcoin, and that's the Bitcoin halving cycle. So the Bitcoin halving cycle is when the rewards for mining Bitcoin are halved. The last halving was last year, 2024, in April. Now we are 1,000 days. I'm going to put a screenshot from the Bitcoin halving clock on screen now, so you can see we're about 1,000 days, 1,074 days, I think, from the next halving. Now, why have I mentioned the Bitcoin halving and what does that mean? I'm going to put a screenshot of a video I made about the Bitcoin halving, but there is a cycle that Bitcoin has been following, and traditionally a year or so after the halving, Bitcoin normally the price will come down, and that's irrespective of any tariff wars, irrespective of any other global developments. Normally the price of Bitcoin goes down. Now, there have been two relevant and very significant changes during the last cycle. So the last cycle included obviously January of last year, which was when the Bitcoin spot ETFs were approved. That gave an air of legitimacy to Bitcoin as an investment, and large institutions started investing in Bitcoin. Some had done that in advance of that, people like Michael Saylor at MicroStrategy, and I'll talk about him coming up. But that was when the legitimacy came. The price is not going to go down as much as it did last time. So in the last cycle, I remember Bitcoin went down at one point was 15,000, 16,000, and that was in January 2023. There will be a new low, but the new low will be higher, if you know what I mean. So it might go down to say 65, 60, 70, around that mark, instead of going all the way down to 16 during this 4-year cycle. So that's something to make a note of. If you're not aware of that, click and watch my videos about Bitcoin halving, and then you'll start to understand that. Now let's talk about tariffs. What is a tariff? A tariff is a tax imposed on imported goods. The 47th president, Donald J. Trump, in America has imposed tariffs on a number of different countries, many countries, China being the most notable one, also Canada and the European Union. Has imposed tariffs of 145% currently against China, and China has reciprocated. So a tariff war is not something that you should engage in lightly, and coming from somebody who is a seasoned businessman, is a unusual move, and it makes you think, hold up.
Say, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Okay, I'm not sure what he intended or what he thought was going to happen when he started a tariff war. This is not a political channel. I'm just going to keep it strictly on the business and the ramifications and how that impacts Bitcoin, as I said in the intro. So what did he think was going to happen? It reminds me of Arnold when he reached the island.
How will I know?
So all fucking hell is going to break loose.
So April 2nd, Donald Trump launches this tariff war, and I don't know what he thought the response would be from China, but this video from Victor Gao encapsulates what the response has been or the Chinese sentiment, Chinese response to the tariff war. So let's just watch that, and then I'll come back to you.
Prepare to fight to the very end, because the world is big enough that the United States is not the totality of the market in the world. So if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
Yeah, and China will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't care. China has been here for 5,000 years. Most of the time, there was no United States, and we survived. And if the United States wants to bully China, we will deal with the situation without the United States. And we expect to survive for another 5,000 years.
When you hear Donald Trump say China wants a deal, it just doesn't know how to go about it. They're proud people. J.D. Vance talks about Chinese peasants. What do you make of their conduct in this respect?
If J.D. Vance thinks that he's dealing with the peasants in China, and I'm proud to be a descendant of the peasants. Most of us are descendants of the peasants anyway. That's our tradition. We are farmers before, but now we are one of the leading industrialized economies in the world. So I'm sorry, J.D. Vance doesn't know what he's talking about.
So now we've spoken and heard about the tariffs and the escalation of the tariffs and the Chinese response to the tariffs. Let's think about the impact on Bitcoin. Most of us, retail investors and institutional investors, do not have the luxury of the position that Michael Saylor can take, and Michael Saylor's position is captured here.
Well, I've famously said I'm going to be buying the top forever. Bitcoin is the exit strategy. It is the strongest asset. So what we see right now is the Bitcoin has just emerged as $1 trillion asset class.
Some of us, many of us, have to be far more responsive to what's happening in the markets. So my view is this in terms of the impact on Bitcoin. But in the short term, Bitcoin, in my view, will be perceived as a safe haven, similar to gold. So at times of economic uncertainty, volatility in terms of the stock market, both in the UK, the US, European stock markets, all of these have seen volatility since the trade war was started. People can invest in Bitcoin, invest in gold, invest in precious metals, generally because they feel that it's a safe haven to preserve their wealth and their value. So that's one response to a situation like this, and that's happening. But there's also another response that impacts that is more likely to come into play over the slightly longer term. So if this tariff war, trade war were to escalate or to generate a global recession or even just a US recession, then people start to perceive their circumstances differently, and they may then become very risk averse. What that means is they don't want to have their money in risky assets. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, etc., all could be perceived as very risky assets, and because of that they may take their money out. So retail investors may take their money out of Bitcoin, may take their money out of Bitcoin via ETFs as well. So net outflows could be quite high because people think, oh, there's a recession coming, there's bills, there's costs, it's not very stable. I need cash, I need the money to be able to meet all my requirements and my responsibilities. So there's two responses that can happen, and both will happen depending on a number of different factors. So in the short term, if there's a short-term trade war, people will continue to hold their Bitcoin, in my view, and they will continue to invest in Bitcoin. Over the longer term, they might think, investing in Bitcoin is not the way to go. I need to be very liquid. I need to be prepared for all eventualities. And in that sense, they will take profits from Bitcoin and sell their assets, and they will also be net outflows from the ETFs that came into play in January 2024. So those are the two responses. That's what it means. So it can mean that the price in the short term might spike briefly, and if there's a long prolonged trade war and leading to a global slowdown or a recession, then people may change their view on their Bitcoin holdings. So what do you think? What do you think is likely to happen? How long do you think the trade war is going to last? Let me know your views, and I will look forward to reading your comments down below. Thanks for watching all the way through. If you've liked this video, please give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and I'll speak to you in the next video. Peace. Just give a few seconds to consider the videos that YouTube is recommending to you. They'll be on the screen now.